listening to Power Producer Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game by equipping you with the tools you need to differentiate yourself in the marketplace.
Well, it's like when we audit the mod with Logic and give them the action items that they're going to use to lower their total cost of risk.
Tactical skills that will help you provide deliverable value to your clients and prospects.
Technology is not an expense, it's an investment. Look at what Think HR has done for our clients and even our team. It's an amazing product, and I'm so thankful we have that.
And action items that you can provide to take your prospects and clients to the next level.
Things are changing for us in 2021. Not all big business anymore. Now that we have CoverWallet on our team, it's amazing that we're going to be able to write small business profitably.
This is Power Producer Shop Talk. Production redefined. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to Power Producer Shop Talk. And I got to tell you, it is September 3rd. It is my daughter Caroline's birthday, but more importantly, write this day down in your calendar, people, because this is the day that Mr. Christian DeLozier can finally use hashtag CBK without infringing on my intellectual property. He is officially in killing commercial, and my goodness, you would have thought that this guy found out that Santa Claus was real when I talked to him this morning.
He's like a kid in a candy store.
My brother's birthday today too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
The
great.
middle cat.
Great Americans were born on September 3rd.
You know?
There were several other people too, man. I need to get better about going through social media and looking at those birthday alerts and reaching out to people that I actually like.
Yours is coming up.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, it is. Another day. closer
Wednesday?
to 50. It's next Wednesday, September
Oh,
8th.
boy.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. You know, it's funny because, like, all
Are you
of
getting a
my-
cookie cake?
Oh, the double cookie cake with the icing in the middle.
Dude,
Man,
the
every
cookie
time.
cake is by far my favorite.
No, you got to go
That's
ice cream cake. Get the dairy.
Ice cream.
Queen
Okay, so ice cream
cake.
cake is very good as well. I
So
would
let's
say
just
that's my
step back
number
right
two.
now. Those are apples and Volvos. Those two should never even like be
That's true.
commented in the same thing. The
Agreed.
ice cream cakes that they have at what is it? Stone
Carvel.
Cold?
No, Cold
Cold
Stone.
Stone.
Cold Stone.
Stone Cold Steve Austin just.
Stone Cold said so. Yeah. No, Cold Stone, man.
That's
They
awesome.
have the most ridiculous. So true story.
Carvel is good too. I don't know
Yes,
if those
they
places
are.
are still around.
No, but you can buy them at Publix. They have them in the frozen food section at Publix, Carvel cakes. There may or may not be like at least one Saturday a month where we've had a pool day, like all day Saturday, and we get in bed at night, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'd really kind of like a little dessert. Cold Stone is on Uber Eats, and you can get a cake.
See, you guys have way more options as far as Uber Eats goes down there in your area. Up here, it's pretty sparse. It's getting better. Like they're putting a Chick-fil-A in right by the Lutz office, which I'm thrilled about.
I bet you are.
Not that has anything to do with Uber Eats, but yeah, it's slim pickings up here.
So here's the true story with Uber Eats real quick, and then we're going to get into what we're going to talk about. People will probably be humored by this one, though. We ordered Jersey Mike's from there last week or the week before, and I went through, Annie ordered her sub, and then I ordered the other three, customized every single one of them, comes to the house, and the one that she ordered was right. The other three were all completely wrong. Like, not even close.
Okay.
Not even close. And so...
Which
I
is
go to
tough
Uber-
to do, by the way. Like it's
Yeah.
a sub. There's like 4 ingredients.
So I'm thinking something happened where I missed a checkbox or something because
Yeah.
they were all three Mike's way, like with
Right.
completely disregarding everything that I put in. So maybe there's a checkbox I missed over it. So anyhow,
No.
I message Uber Eats and I say, hey guys, 3 out of the 4 sandwiches were wrong. You know, they had oregano on them, which creates violent issues with 3 of our stomachs.
Really?
And we would never have put that on there.
That's
In fact, I
interesting.
know for a fact I took it off. This is what was supposed to be on there. The guy writes back and says, next time be more careful when you order. Here are some suggestions for you being more accurate. That was his customer service.
That's awesome.
That is not where this conversation ended, in case anybody had any doubt whatsoever. So I immediately write him back
I'll show you careful.
and I said, Perhaps you'd like to look at what my Uber Eats bill looked like on a weekly basis prior to the last 4 or 5 months when we quit using Uber Eats because every time we ordered, our meals weren't right. We were a gold mine for you. I quit using you, and this is literally the first time in like 4 months at a bare minimum that we've ordered anything at all from Uber Eats, and it's wrong. So that's fine. Your customer service sucks as bad on the back end as it does on the front end. We won't be back, and I'll make sure to share this experience with all my friends and family. He writes back and said, I can see you were a loyal customer. We're very sorry for the issues. We've issued you a complete refund for your order. Like, why wouldn't you do that the first time, man?
Yeah, why be a dick the first time and just try
Why
to...
do I have? Why do I have to get nasty?
Well, it could have been a bot. It could have been a bot that just replied, based on
But that's a ridiculous reply for a bot.
Oh, agreed.
Be more careful in your Uber Eats ordering.
It's always your fault.
Anyways.
So check this out, man. I just got this note. I'm not going to name names, but I had a guy that is in the new Power Producers Mastermind that we just started. I spent some time with him yesterday on the phone. I had a couple of guys in Killing Commercial but in the new Power Producers Mastermind, actually, Stephen, it's the one that I was going back and forth with you on, and I was like, holy crap. So this account was with a carrier that has a package policy, but by the time you it's a regional carrier that we don't have regionals down here ever.
Yeah.
Like so anytime I see that, I'm just always amazed at how much coverage is given for such a little price.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, it basically took a commercial package and turned it into a BOP. So there's actual loss sustained on the business income. They had blanket waiver, blanket AI, primary non-contributory, like every bell and whistle you can imagine was thrown onto this policy at a dirt cheap price. But my concern was, as was the agent, this is what he brought it to me for, was he wondered why the payroll was understated so much because it looked and smelled like a package, but it was like actually more like a BOP when you dug into the coverage. And I said, well, with the ALS on there, maybe it really is a BOP and it's unauditable, and the agent played a game to get the premium down to get the account knowing it wouldn't be audited. But it turns out that's not the case. It's the first year with this carrier, and they are going to get hammered.
Oh,
so yeah, thanks so much. The account we reviewed yesterday wants to switch everything over, including their workers' comp. He was blown away at all of the risk management ideas I discussed with him that his current agent never mentioned. Plus, he had never heard of pay-as-you-go monthly self-audits, thought that was only available through the payroll company. We'll post this in our group, but this will be tied for my biggest account so far at a little over $55,000 in premium. Not huge, but I would still get up and cross the street to write $55,000 in premium any day. Yeah. Great job, man. Great job.
Especially because like doing that, what kind of credibility is that going to build for you, and who are they going to talk to about it,
So here's the deal, man. That is actually fortuitous timing. We're just going to make the podcast episode about what we talked about. And we'll walk through that and sort of use a little bit of it because, here's the thing. When people bring me accounts like that are smaller compared to what my skill set is really the best at, it's not that I'm too good for them. Don't get me wrong. I tell people all the time that want me to help, like friends, family, whatever else, they want me to help them with their small business. And I'll tell them, look, I appreciate you wanting to give the business to me. And by all means, if you need my help, I'm happy to do it. I just want to let you know that I may not be the best option for you. And it's not that I'm trying to gracefully excuse myself from it, but the truth is we don't have the really good small business markets because that's not what I want to do. I mean, my closest thing is probably Hartford or auto owners for some of that stuff. But I mean, that's not always going to be the best option, especially with some of the property guidelines that we have down here. So when somebody brings me a smaller account like that and I look at it, it's really, really tough for me to start poking holes in it because I don't know who the players are as much as I do in the middle market. So I immediately go to what I always gravitate towards and say, what can you talk about that's not insurance? What is this? What are the things that you can bring up? And so on this particular account, they had some pretty good, it was a landscape company. They had some pretty good loss history, except for 1 year they had a shock loss And I mean, the premium's about 30 grand, 35 grand in the auto.
Right.
So
That's a big driver.
Yeah. And so when you have a loss that's like 50,000, now you've got a problem, right? So even though they had 3 years, even the 3-year loss snapshot had it up because they had that 1 year of shock loss. And so, this guy was worried in the conversation was, man, I got my prices close. I said, if you're worried about going in there on price, you might as well forget it. Like, there's no point in it. There's no incentive for him to move. You're going to have to create doubt. You're going to have to drive a wedge. And the only way you're going to do that is by asking questions that have nothing to do with the insurance that you can do to sort of, and I tell people all the time, it's like the old, you see it on the cartoons and stuff where the guy waves this hand, but then he punches you with the other one because you get distracted over here. That's how I look at that. You're going to talk about risk management, and then you're going to get the death hook when throw the death punch when you're trying to bring it on. And so one of the examples was, look, I'm probably not going to. And I said, be honest and transparent too. There's something refreshing that never happens in the industry. Tell the guy, hey, you know what? If you're looking to move on price, I'm probably not going to be your guy. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't want to unrealistically set your expectations. We're not even working on this year at this point. This is already written. Even if you told me you wanted to move it midterm, I'm not going to be able to do anything at all to make this a better option for you from a pricing standpoint. So just know up front that anything that we're going to talk about today is going to cost you the same amount that you're already spending, period. If you want to proceed, let me tell you all of the other things that I noticed inside your insurance program that aren't there. And so then we start.
I think that's key, setting the table like that. I mean, that's huge. You're being upfront with them and honest, like you said, and not trying to just skirt around things. I think that's huge.
Well, you know what? It's been a long time since I've done anything based on renewal cycles. So I don't even know that the entire time that you have been with me that you've ever seen me present like a traditional insurance presentation based on us placing the insurance at the X date to try and win the business. I don't know that you've ever seen me do that. But when I do,
I can't recall.
What I can tell you is in the past, when I have done that, the very first thing I do is I put the summary of coverages in the premium page in the very front of the binder. It's the first page I talk about because I know for a fact that if I don't hit that first, the whole time I'm talking, they're either going to be rude and disrespectful and thumbing through my binder looking for it and not listening to me, or they're going to be thinking
cleaning
about
their
all of that
fingernails
stuff in
with your
their head.
business card.
Oh, dude, worst ever. Let me tell you. God, here we go. I don't think I shared this one on the most awkward client visits, but I do. That was a perfect one.
Is this the third knuckle ear story?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I was in an egg distributorship, and we were in there, and the guy, and this is in Florida. The owner and his brother were in there, and when I tell you that I thought I was walking into Deliverance when I walked into this place, I was just waiting for the music over the loudspeaker to be banjo music, and like some guy dressed up like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction to crawl out from underneath the conference room table. It absolutely insane. So we're sitting in there, and this guy is as creepy. He looks like the creepy ice cream driver, has the thin mustache that doesn't really grow in all the way. Like, I am painting it pale, probably smokes 2 packs of Cowboy Killers a day, if not Cool Menthols. Just like this guy is that guy. Polyester pants pulled up over his fupa, everything. So I'm sitting in the meeting, and this dude continuously has his pinky ear up to his third knuckle in his ear. His pinky finger is in his ear up to the third knuckle. And I'm with another producer. Now, we're going back like 15, 20 years. This is early in my career. And I'm sitting here with a poker face, man. Like, what is this dude doing? And he'd pull it out, and he'd look at it, and he'd stick it back in. Like, he was digging for gold. And he pulled it out, and he'd look at it. And, like, about the 5th time he did it, he pulled it out. And there was something on it that looked like you could catch catfish with it. Okay?
Oh, God.
Pulls it out, and I'm like, no. As it's gradually getting closer and closer, and I'll be danged if the dude did not stick the finger in his mouth.
Like, what is wrong with people? Like who taught that guy that was an appropriate action?
Like, it was directly in front of me. And the guy that I'm with, we get up, we close out the meeting.
Like, that's not even okay to do by yourself.
No, I'm the one right next to this guy. Immediately sticks his hand out, and I shake it, not even thinking about it. And the other producer is like, germaphobe Johnny Clean. You could tell the guy goes to stick his hand out. And he's like, fist bump, bro.
Dude, oh my God, that's so foul.
I'm supposed to have a lunch meeting after this, and I don't think I have an appetite anymore. I was cringing.
Do not eat mashed sweet potatoes, Stephen.
No, nothing anywhere close to that.
So back to the task at hand. So this guy, we start picking through this thing, and I'm looking for coverage holes in a program that quite honestly had none. Like the way that policy was structured, you would really have to try to write it for something and not have it covered. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's amazing how broad the form was and the premium. So kudos to them. I really wish they'd come to Florida. I'd love to have a contract. But I told him, I said, we got to take the stuff off of this. So focus on it. Tell them price isn't going to be any different. Get that out of the way to begin with. Then you go back and you start creating doubt with these people and say, look, you had these accidents and you've had several where somebody got rear-ended. What have you done to correct that? What is the driver's selection criteria that you established with your agent and the carrier on the front end that would be acceptable so that you're not wasting time interviewing people to drive for you that are never going to qualify? If you know that on the front end and you pull their MVR as part of the hiring process, you're not going to hope you have a candidate only to find out insurance isn't going to approve them, and you can keep that going. Talk to me about doing a road test for drivers. When the people come in, do you require them to go out on a road test with somebody to see how they handle the vehicle and that they're driving correctly and all of that? Do you have a defensive driving policy? Do you have in a program and a training designed around that? Do you have a fleet safety policy and a training and a program designed around that? And I just kept peppering him with all of this stuff, which is 100% relevant to the exact situation you're in. And I told him, I said, listen, I'm not optimistic, man. The problem that you have when you start dealing with smaller end to middle market, which this is a little bit above the smallest end, but you're dealing with an owner, you're dealing with a buyer that's doing like 15 different things, and this is your Hail Mary. You're going to pepper them with this stuff and hope that it clicks, and if it does, you'll get the account, and if it doesn't, they're not going to move. I said, but what I know is this. This account doesn't renew until February 22nd. Okay? These guys want to talk to you now for a reason.
Right.
Start with the risk management, open the conversation, and eventually they're going to give you the reason through the conversation that they wanted to move. And I think, truthfully, man, that's the biggest thing. I don't care if it's a $2,500 BOP or a $250,000 package policy. You have to educate people, period, because those companies are going to grow, and you have to have that conversation. Do you want to grow? Let me tell you about one of the larger landscape companies that are in my book of business and what happened to them when they were your size, because I've been with them since they were smaller than you, since they were your size, and now that they're bigger. And one of the things I bring to the table is to help you avoid the mistakes that some of my other clients have made because I've been with them as they've grown through that process. And you start showing that level of experience that says, look, not only can I represent you where you're at, I can represent you where you're going and everywhere in between. And now you have an account that's going to stick with you for a while because other agents aren't going out and talking about those things. And I don't even think that other agents truthfully think that that stuff's important. I hate to say that, but people in our industry, they don't, man. They're not going to think about fleet safety. They're going to think about, what can I do to badger an underwriter to get the premium credits as low as possible so that I can sell on price, and I'll hopefully keep this account for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think also in the eyes of the insured is that at the end of the day, it's a piece of paper they're looking at and they want to know what coverages are in there, right? But if you're just focusing on that quote unquote piece of paper of what's in there and what's not, that's a boring conversation. What can you do? What service can you provide beyond just that piece of paper? What can you advise them on that can help them grow, help them stay profitable, and then help them keep their premiums down? And if you're not doing that, like you said, somebody else might be, but there's not a lot that are. And many times you're going to go into a conversation and it's going to be about the price, the coverages. But you go a little different beyond that and bring them more value. In those little instances like that is going to go a long, long way.
So this particular situation that you're talking about here, you're like, there's a reason why they're talking to you right now when they renew in February. Did through the course of that Was that uncovered? Did they come out and say what the
I have no idea, man. I literally just got the Facebook message from the guy telling me he got the account. So I can't wait to hear what the deal was.
It'd be interesting. I mean, obviously the questioning and going that route is what made the difference, but I'm curious as to if there was some sort of underlying issue that was going on, that caused them to reach out in the first place, or engage rather.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, how much, and I think the moral of the story here is that you have to be able to have your skill set adapt based on the size of the account, right? It's not that I'm unqualified to give people advice on an account that size. It's just that I'm rusty. I don't know all the players, and I'm going to have to fine tune my game a little bit to get there. But I mean, how do you transition, man? Like when you're out dealing with a middle market account, like one of your big pallet manufacturers that you're going after. I mean, those guys are all shapes and sizes. I'm sure you talk to a different way to one of the big ones versus one of the ones that's not quite as big. How do you modify your message in that process?
Well, I think at the end of the day, you view it all the same, to be honest with you. I view a pallet manufacturer, no matter the size, I do kind of view them all the same. We start off with the same conversations, but it's almost like on the cusp. You start to realize different aspects of where, they're going to need more attention for, or more, you focus on a little bit more than maybe say a larger one. They don't have the capabilities of some of these larger ones that'll have on-site safety managers and all that stuff. So that's how you kind of tailor. You just kind of, and after time, you just figure out, you kind of group them together of say, hey, usually when they're in this, this category, this is usually what the problems are. And same, they're a little bit higher. These are usually kind of where you're at. And that's where you kind of hit on them to start those conversations. Because if you can start that conversation, and hell, I was having this conversation with DeLozier yesterday, anytime you're having an appointment with somebody, what's more effective? The one where you're kind of like doing it like an interview, or one where it's turning into a conversation? It's always the one where it's turning into a conversation. And if you can start those questions off to where they're starting to talk a little bit more, and because that's probably going to be an area where they're going to have an issue, that appointment's going to go 10 times better than you just rattling off a bunch of questions and having them answer them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that is, you spend more and more time doing sales calls. And this is applicable to any industry. It's not just, the insurance industry. You become more fluent in that. Like, I feel like one of my strengths is that I can go in and get all of my information that I want from somebody just by having a conversation with them. And they have no idea that I've gotten all of that information from them. Like, that is what I have, been able to do over the course of, 15, 20 years in the industry. When I first got into the industry, I was Johnny Checklist, man. I would go in, I would still prepare for the appointment almost identically to how I would prepare for one today, but I would write all those questions down. I would ask them in list format. And over time, gaining confidence and experience and comfort, I just realized I'm asking pretty much the same questions almost every time.
Yeah.
I just need to memorize them, figure out how to fit them into conversation.
And you do over time, but I think it's important to do that on the front end, at least for me. Like, I remember stuff when I write it down. So when I'm getting ready to do a call, I write down all the shit that I want to talk about, and not necessarily that I'm going to flow in that same order. It's going to flow how it flows based on where what they answer and things that we talked about. But I want to go back to your point that I think is huge about, kind of relating where they are, even though they may be a smaller business than you're used to dealing with, saying, hey, look, one of my larger contractors or whatever type of business it is, here's some things that they ran into. I was with them when they were smaller than you, when they were your size. This is the stuff that we had to address, and here's what we had to do, to get them to grow and to be to the point where they're at now. They're a $10 million company. But I think doing that is the way to adjust to dealing with companies that may be different than the typical prospects that you're going after in terms of size.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's FOMO, right? One of the things that I do when I'm dealing specifically, that's why I think that if you have a niche or a vertical market, like Steven's got a couple of them, we obviously have a few. When you go in and you're in that arena and you're talking about it all the time, you can just casually name drop, people
Yeah,
that you know.
they're gonna know them.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I remember that when we brought so and so on. Man, was that a train wreck? Look at how they are now. Now they're 20 million in sales. They've got a couple hundred employees, 100 vehicles. And I'm just thankful we got to be a part of that. But one of the reasons why they've been able to grow profitably and invest in their people and grow their business through, aggressive pricing or whatever else is because they drop their total cost of risk by almost, by double digits, mid double digits.
That's something I try to do in every appointment is relate it to somebody that they're, even if it's just a general. So when I was doing the office supplies, it was like one of our impulse factors is what it was called. And they refer to it as Jones effect, like keeping up with the Joneses. Like people don't want to miss out on things that other people are taking advantage of. And especially when they're in the same industry. So you can just use something general like, hey, most of my other cabinet manufacturers, here's some of the stuff that they're running into, and here's what we were able to do to help get them back on track. Or if you do, it's definitely more powerful if you're able to use someone specifically. So when I was selling office supplies, I would walk into a business, especially if I just sold an account next door that sold them a bunch of toner and paper or whatever, there was a 100% chance that when I walked in that next business, I was saying, hey, I'm Kyle, I was just next door with so-and-so company. Oh, yeah. They're clients of mine. I was able to save them 20% on their paper and toner and figured that, you guys might be looking for a deal too, whatever the rest of the pitch was, but the Jones effect was huge.
I think also that, and you have a larger contractor or whatever it is, a larger pallet manufacturer, these guys, they all know each other first off. Yeah. Secondly, they see these ones and they kind of say, hey, that's who I want to, everybody does it. Hey, that's the kind of business I want to grow to be like them. Mm-hmm. And if you can, if you end up, that's your client, well, now credibility with that person has grown because exactly. They want to be like them. They're using you, so
it's a huge credibility thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I agree, man. And I mean, sometimes it's funny too, because sometimes it gets so ingrained in who you are. Like it's funny because Nick Ayers will tell the story when we were in Key West, last summer. It's actually how he introduced me when I spoke at the Better Agency Users Group back in April. He made the comment that, I wanted to introduce you to David. We were in Key West, and to give you this guy's persona, I was in the golf cart. He was in the back, and he said, hey, do you mind if Preston and I ask you a few questions about commercial because we're building out the workflows for Better Agency, blah, 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 blah. He goes, but only if you're on. And he said, it's better to watch him tell the story. But he said, I turned around, stared at a hole through the middle of his chest and said, I'm always on. And I mean, truthfully, that's the God's honest truth, man, because listening to Kyle talk about what he just said and me telling the story about how I always try to casually name drop, we have an account that we visited together that I had never met before. That's one of our existing clients, and I sat there and name dropped like three or four other clients.
That's so when we first started talking, like 10 minutes ago, that's the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, so we did this in that appointment, and I do it in almost every appointment that I'm in, especially if it's somebody, that it's just a natural thing to do. Like you said, Stephen, it builds that credibility. It almost, it calms them down too a little bit, right? They're like, okay, this guy has other clients in his book that are similar to me. I can trust what this person's saying. I'm going to drop my guard a little bit.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. Anytime you're in a social setting by yourself, a networking event or something like that you don't know anybody, when you find that common ground or you find out, they say somebody that they know that as well too. I mean, you're relaxed. You feel a little more comfortable yourself. And now you guys have some common ground to talk about. Going from there. So it's no different. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's a people business. It's what we do. Everybody's human. That's the way I tell everybody, the way I sell, I'm just being human. People want to be treated like humans, and that's how you get to them. Just have a conversation, and that's all that it takes, really. And talk to them like you would talk to your friend, basically. You'll get enough information out of them that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, we go in and we make it all about the insurance, and half the time it's just, look, I boil it down to the most basic premise possible. When my kids have asked me when they were younger, Dad, what do you do for a living? I get paid to make friends. That's it.
There you go.
At the most basic level, that's exactly what I do. And God forbid you put me in that networking, group, because I am going to make friends 100% of the time. But I mean, I don't want to go.
You want to sub for me in B&I next week?
I will never sub for you in B&I ever again. But here's the thing, and this is to your point, Stephen, and we've kind of been all over the place on this episode, but I think we've covered some really good stuff. But when you go to a networking event like that, it's just like going to a first appointment. Plan, figure out who's going to be there first. So for me, like even when we would go back in the day, when I would go to the National Association of PEOs, NAPIO, when I would go to their annual conference at my prior agency, I would have 3 people for the entire conference. These are my guys. This is who I'm going after. If I meet them all the first day, great. If I don't meet them all the first day, I'm going to bust my hump to get in front of these 3 people at the conference for serious FaceTime before the conference is over. And that's how I went in. Complete laser focus. Now, did that open up other opportunities because I happened to be there and people saw me and they knew? Absolutely. But 100% of the time, my mission was not complete until I made those connections. And I think it's important that as you're getting into networking groups or events or whatever else, even like charitable events where you're sponsoring tables and things, guess what? Other business owners are sponsoring those tables too. Good idea. Go meet with them. Talk to them. You don't have to sell them insurance at a charitable event. You can just get to know them, and when they see that you're running in those circles, it's like brand recognition for your personal brand at that point. But know who those people are and don't make it an accident that you're in front of them. Figure out how you're going to make it work. So put the time in on the front. Stephen, you look like you want to add something to that.
Yeah, I would say, I'm going out to visit one of my clients out in Pittsburgh next week, and what they do is a little bit different, like trade shows. They'll go to trade shows or conferences and they don't buy a booth. What they'll do is they will sponsor like a happy hour afterwards and have everybody come there, because now everybody's a little bit let down. In these trade shows, everybody's walking around doing the same old spiel, trying to get in front of everybody. Well, now they got them all one-on-one, and they got them at a place where they can have, a drink or two and feel a little more relaxed. And he said he's got more value out of that than ever getting the table at a trade show.
Absolutely.
Yep, agreed. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap this one up, man. Get the weekend started, and then we're going to come back on the next one, and we're going to talk about email and how we can use that. So everybody have a great weekend. Kyle, take them out.
Cool. We'll catch you guys later. Happy Labor Day, everybody.
Didn't mean to catch you off guard, man. See ya.
Definitely were. I was not paying attention.
Garbage man outside?
No, but my Jordans just arrived, so I was a little bit preoccupied.
All right, attaboy. So we're gonna kill this. Get your Jordans, and we'll see you in a few on the next one.
All right.
You've been listening to Power Producers Shop Talk. You can follow us at the Power Producers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our commercial insurance training course at killingcommercial.com or visit Amazon to pick up a copy of our international best-selling book, The Extra 2 Minutes.